On Christmas, Oliver Fairfax deliberately pushed aside his work to stay home and keep me company. I was happily cooking his favorite meals in the kitchen, but when I came out, I heard him speaking German on the phone. "Darling, I can't come over today. I'll rush over first thing tomorrow morning." The girl's voice on the other end also coquettishly spoke in German. "Aren't you worried Lancaster sister will hear?" Oliver Fairfax's eyes flashed with contempt. "What's to worry about? That housewife who only knows how to do laundry and cook wouldn't understand anyway. Don't worry, once she's given birth to the baby, I'll bring the child and reunite with you." The plate in my hand couldn't be held any longer. It fell to the ground with a bang. Oliver Fairfax hurriedly hung up the phone and asked me what was wrong. I held back tears and shook my head. "It's nothing. I just felt a little dizzy suddenly." Oliver Fairfax tenderly carried me back to the bedroom and stayed with me all night. I didn't sleep all night and trembled as I booked a second trimester abortion. Oliver Fairfax probably forgot that when I went abroad for exchange in college, I went to Germany. The successful appointment message pops up. Oliver Fairfax also gradually wakes up. He normally wanted to kiss my cheek, but I turned aside and avoided him. Oliver Fairfax stiffened for a moment, saw my phone glowing beside my pillow, and furrowed his brows. "In the future, look at your phone less. It's not good for the baby." I forced a bitter smile, nodded, and closed the hospital appointment page. Oliver Fairfax didn't notice my change at all, just glanced at his phone and slightly curved his lips. He quickly dressed himself and said confidently, "Vivienne, today I have a very important social engagement at the company. You don't have to wait for me tonight." She said this and strode out the door. In the past, whenever he went out for social engagements, I would get up early to prepare breakfast for him and repeatedly remind him not to drink too much. Being influenced by his every move, I couldn't find peace all day long. But now, I am only exhaustedly lying in bed, with his words from last night echoing repeatedly in my mind. It turns out that the happiness and harmony I always thought of was just a scam, and the person who lied to me was the man who once vowed to love me for a lifetime. I keep unsuccessfully searching Grace Simmons's Weibo, and sure enough, I saw countless photos about Oliver Fairfax. For 3 whole years, Oliver Fairfax frequently traveled on business trips to Germany to accompany Grace Simmons. My gaze was attracted by comments and Grace Simmons's matching avatar, and I couldn't help but hold my breath as I clicked into his homepage. Just a few short videos, but it was the first time I saw Oliver Fairfax laugh so happily. In the video, Oliver Fairfax gently caresses the girl's head in his arms, smiling as he tells her that they will have years and years together. The phone vibrated twice, Oliver Fairfax sending a text message, reminding me to eat well. In the past, I would have been overjoyed by his concern, but now I can't help but think that Oliver Fairfax should have ended his rapture with Grace Simmons. I remembered being pregnant, so I pretended to send a text message, perhaps to confirm my suspicion. Grace Simmons also updated her status. The man who said he had to go to a social event is now kneeling under the Christmas tree hanging childish ornaments, with red marks on his neck from leaning down, looking ambiguous. Fairfax said he would send me a one-of-a-kind Christmas tree, even through the screen. I can already imagine Oliver Fairfax's seriousness and tenderness, but on Christmas Eve, when I said I wanted a Christmas tree, he but indifferently refused. "How old are you now?" "Still learning that little girl's tricks. Too idle. Better to sign up for a few prenatal education classes." Oliver Fairfax has always been a straightforward guy. I've long been used to his indifference, but the photo in front of me felt like a sharp knife, ruthlessly slicing open my heart. I had to realize that he was never unromantic, he just never took me seriously. But I still can't understand, if he doesn't love me anymore, why does he still put on a show with me? As my emotions wavered, my stomach also started to cramp. I gently touched my belly, repeatedly apologizing in my heart to this unborn child. Since I know all of this is a mistake, how could I possibly let the mistake continue? Arriving at the hospital, I completed the procedures. I lay calmly on the operating table, allowing the cold liquid to flow into my body. Tears kept streaming down, and I gradually lost consciousness. When I woke up again, the nurse was removing the four, and seeing me sit up, she quickly helped me. "You young people really don't take your health seriously," last Christmas, I saw your husband bringing you here for IVF. Last month, I saw him taking you for a pregnancy test and thought your wish had finally come true. Why are you having a miscarriage again now?" I looked at her in disbelief, so shocked that I couldn't speak. The slightly younger nurse behind her subtly gave her a warning look and smiled awkwardly. "She's old and has a bad memory. She mistaken someone else," as she finished speaking. She pulled her out of the ward. I could vaguely hear their argument. "What are you doing? I'm sure I remember correctly. It's that man." My whole body trembled, almost unable to hold the phone steady. "Oliver Fairfax and I decided to try IVF 3 months ago, so how could it be last Christmas?" I nervously opened Grace Simmons's Weibo, flipping back to a post from last Christmas. "Grace Simmons's location is definitely at this hospital. I like the idea of having a baby, but my health doesn't permit it. I wanted to try IVF, but Fairfax's husband heard that giving birth is risky and wouldn't let me take the risk. I really don't know what to say about him." The comments below are all praising Oliver Fairfax as a good husband. I watched and suddenly started to laugh, my cheeks burning from the cold liquid piercing them. Memories of that day floated back in my mind. Oliver Fairfax knowing I was finally pregnant, constantly kissing my forehead. He said that after the baby is born, he would be the best dad in the world. He said he wanted to spend the rest of his life happily with me, never to part. The usually silent and reticent Oliver Fairfax spent that day watching over me and talking about our future all night. That was the happiest day of my life. I believed Oliver Fairfax the promise of a lifetime, but now I understand, his joy that day wasn't because we had a beautiful baby, rather, my IVF was successful. And his beloved Grace Simmons wouldn't need to go through IVF anymore. I can't help but want to ask him, when he talks about a lifetime, whether he's thinking of me or Grace Simmons. The phone vibrated, and it was a voice message from Oliver Fairfax. I forced myself to hold back my emotions and opened it, only to hear Oliver Fairfax saying he would be home late due to a business dinner. In the background, faintly mixed with a few low moans of a girl, almost imperceptibly, but I clearly recognized it as Grace Simmons's voice. Grace Simmons sirring affectionately as she called Oliver Fairfax's name, and soon, their photos appeared on Weibo, Grace Simmons sitting on the sofa like a princess, Oliver Fairfax kneeling on the ground, devoutly kissing her feet, with tender expressions I've never seen before. Disobedience consequence, punishment. Fairfax always presses my feet. Grace Simmons' coquettish copy. Oliver Fairfax almost immediately liked it. I can no longer hold back and burst into tears under the covers. In a daze, I feel like I have returned to our first Christmas together. Oliver Fairfax finished work early and was waiting for me outside the airport. The snow was swirling around him, but his gaze towards me was tender. When I came out, I saw him like this. He walked towards me with determination, took the luggage from my hand. At that time I thought, I and Oliver Fairfax would surely grow old together. But all this peace was broken by Grace Simmons. Grace Simmons was a student I and Oliver Fairfax funded together before we got married. At that time, Oliver Fairfax said, she also learned German, which reminded me of how you looked when speaking German at the exchange meeting, feeling very warm. It was Oliver Fairfax and Oliver Fairfax 2nd Christmas together. After deciding to sponsor Grace Simmons, we got married shortly afterward. From then on, every Christmas became about the three of us. Oliver Fairfax said Grace Simmons, a little girl in Beijing, was so pitiful, so every holiday was celebrated with her. Later, her room was also in the house, almost like Oliver Fairfax's little tail. Oliver Fairfax also spoiled her, even bringing her to company parties secretly without telling me. Until she failed too many courses and was dismissed by the school, I decided to stop sponsoring her. Oliver Fairfax had a big fight with me, and I fainted from emotional upheaval. When I woke up, Oliver Fairfax was kneeling by my bed, constantly apologizing and saying he was wrong. That's when I found out I was pregnant. Oliver Fairfax stopped funding Grace Simmons and also resigned from my translation job at the company. I thought there would be arguments with Oliver Fairfax and some distance between us, but I never thought he would cheat. I dried my tears, took off the ring on my ring finger, and threw it into the trash. Oliver Fairfax, since you are untrustworthy, I no longer need to wait for you here. After being discharged from the hospital, I went home alone, lying on the bed in a daze for a long time. I finally picked up the phone and dialed my supervisor's number. Liujie, is the translation position at the company still open? On the other end of the line, Liujie was silent for a long time before awkwardly saying, "The translation position Fairfax has already been fully assigned to Miss Simmons." "I'm not sure about the details right now." I forced a smile, thanked her, and then hung up the phone. The moment the screen went dark, Oliver Fairfax, also tired, pushed the door open. He bowed his head and replied to messages on his phone, a faint smile on his lips, but when he looked up and met my gaze, the smile instantly disappeared. "It's so late. Why aren't you resting yet?" He looked at me with confusion, a trace of impatience flashing in his eyes. I sat down on the sofa in front of him and said calmly, "The company's translation position has changed to a new person again. I heard the last name is Simmons. I probably don't know them, right?" Oliver Fairfax felt guilty and touched his nose after hearing that, but quickly returned to his normal expression. "The students you introduced are somewhat limited in ability. I also asked the secretary to hire someone. Surname Simmons. I haven't asked yet." "All right, Vivienne, it's too late now. You and the baby should rest." "Recently, I've been socializing a lot. It's my fault. But isn't this for a better life for you and the baby?" I forcibly suppressed the cold amusement in my heart and lay back on the bed, Oliver Fairfax's body pressed against me, carrying a familiar fragrance. "Go to sleep early. I am very tired today." Hearing his words, I felt a wave of nausea surge within me. Coming back from Grace Simmons's bed in the middle of the night, carrying her perfume scent. Yet she told me it was all for me and the child. I seemed to be recognizing for the first time this man whom I have loved for 8 years. Oliver Fairfax didn't notice my tense back at all, and Fairfax himself wanted to hold me in his arms. I couldn't hold it anymore and almost ran to the bathroom, vomiting into the toilet. It wasn't until my eyes turned red from vomiting that I managed to barely calm the nauseous feeling inside. Oliver Fairfax thought I was having a normal pregnancy reaction. With worried eyes, patting my back soothingly, I avoided his touch and turned on the air purifier function of the air conditioner. "Baby is so disobedient. When he comes out I will definitely teach him a good lesson. How dare he mess with you like this?" I struggled to pull at the corner of my mouth without saying anything. Oliver Fairfax seemed to finally realize that my emotions were off, and the next day he stayed at home to work, not going to any social engagement. My body, however, Oliver Fairfax had developed an extreme disgust towards. Simply touching him causes my stomach to churn. Multiple episodes of vomiting turned my face pale. Oliver Fairfax nervously wanted to take me to the hospital, but I shook my head faintly. "No need anymore. I no longer need your false concern and insincere care." Oliver Fairfax paused for a moment, furrowing his brows with some impatience. He wanted to say something else, but suddenly his phone rang. The familiar German voice sounded. "Oliver brother, do you want something exciting? I'm waiting for you in the car." Oliver Fairfax lowered his phone, a relaxed expression spreading on his face. His eyes flickered with a hint of guilt when he looked at me. "Vivienne, something suddenly came up at the company. Can you manage alone? Don't overthink." "I'll be back soon," I sneered inwardly, but my tone was calm. "It's okay, I trust you." I forced a pale smile and turned back to my bedroom. Oliver Fairfax hurriedly walked out the door. Not even noticing that his phone had fallen, I picked up his phone, and it was showing an incoming call. Oliver Fairfax is indeed meticulous. The call had no notes, but I knew who was on the other end. I sneered and answered, then heard flirtatious collision sounds coming from the microphone. Grace Simmons playfully asked, "Lancaster didn't satisfy you?" The flirtatious sounds paused for a moment before Oliver Fairfax chuckled sarcastically. "How could she compare to you even a fraction of a percent?" Amidst the collision sounds, Grace Simmons's laughter felt like a dagger stabbing into my heart. I silently uploaded the recording to my phone and returned to my bedroom. Oliver Fairfax was just about to sleep when I returned. He leaned over, carefully pulling up my hand, which carried the scent of perfume. I pulled back in disgust. Oliver Fairfax looked down at my empty ring finger with a blank expression. "Vivienne, where's the ring?" I rubbed my hand that he had touched, casually saying, I had a manicure last time, and it was inconvenient, so I took it off and forgot to put it back on. It's just a ring, after all. You haven't worn one either, right?" Oliver Fairfax's face froze, and he suddenly fell silent. "We didn't have a wedding or wedding photos when we got married, only this ring. This is the only ring." Oliver Fairfax also didn't want to wear it. He said he didn't want people at the company to speculate about our relationship and gossip about me. Now I understand that he's not afraid I'll be gossiped about, he's actually afraid that Grace Simmons will be. Oliver Fairfax was silent for a long moment before speaking again. "My mistake, I will wear it from now on. And I will not take it off without your permission, okay?" Oliver Fairfax seldom spoke in a gentle tone, but I found his false sweetness even more disgusting. "Let's hold a wedding again at the end of the month, when the baby is not too big. By then, I will publicly acknowledge your identity in front of the whole company, so you won't be overthinking anymore." I knew this was his guilt after secretly enjoying himself, and I couldn't help but frown irritably. Oliver Fairfax thought I was touched, and Fairfax automatically pulled me into his arms. Until midnight, I heard Oliver Fairfax walking to the living room after opening the door. I secretly looked through the door crack and heard him on the phone, his tone helpless. "I just want to stabilize her first, after all. She's still pregnant with our child. Don't be angry. I'll come find you soon, okay?" His voice clearly echoed in my ears, almost making me lose my footing. Turns out, the child I endured so much to carry was also his calculation. I dazedly returned to bed, took out my phone, and booked a flight to Germany at the end of the month. Oliver Fairfax returned, gently stroked my belly, his tone tender. "Vivienne, something has come up at work. You and the baby stay at home and wait for me." Hearing the sound of the door closing, I slowly opened my eyes. "Oliver Fairfax, you wait for that so-called wedding, wait for the surprises I have for you." Since that day, Oliver Fairfax still goes out early and returns late. Grace Simmons also keeps updating her Weibo, sharing their sweet daily moments. I have also quietly prepared everything, just waiting for the wedding to arrive. 2 days before the wedding, Grace Simmons couldn't wait anymore and showed up at the door. "Long time no see, Lancaster sister." I opened the door and saw a proud Grace Simmons. She swaggered inside, examining everything in the house as if she were the mistress. Then said disdainfully, "Did you ever think there would be a day you chased me out back then? Was that the day you became a mistress?" I scoffed loudly. Grace Simmons was provoked to the point of pain, her voice becoming sharp and piercing. "Just wait and see, not only is your man mine, your child will call me Mom. Everything of yours will become mine." Grace Simmons suddenly grasped my arm tightly, her slender fingernails digging into the flesh. I instinctively wanted to push her away. But at that moment, the door behind me was opened. Oliver Fairfax opened the door, so I naturally leaned to the side, but he seemed to see nothing and resolutely approached Grace Simmons. "Grace." Oliver Fairfax protected Grace Simmons behind him, then turned to look at me coldly. "Vivienne Lancaster, why are you still so unreasonable? Grace has already fled abroad, and you still won't let her go." The words fell as the door was slammed shut by him, and the living room instantly fell into dead silence. Oliver Fairfax's relentless questioning still echoed in my ears, but I smiled. Although it was clearly me who fell, and I who was pregnant, his eyes could only see Grace Simmons. The same favoritism Oliver Fairfax also showed to me. During my 3rd year, my foster mother forced me to drop out, to go home and marry so my younger brother could get bride price. It was Oliver Fairfax who kept me behind him, telling me that he would be there for everything. He spent 2 years helping me completely break free from my foster mother, but only took 2 months to fall in love with someone else. In the end, love turned into harsh words, but it was clearly him who once said he wanted to give me happiness. Now he is no longer that Oliver Fairfax who had nothing, and he no longer loves me wholeheartedly, and I no longer need his love. 2 days before the wedding, Oliver Fairfax returned home. He looked normal, as if Grace Simmons had never appeared, and that everything that happened that day was just a hallucination. "Vivienne, stop looking at your phone and try the ring size." "Okay." Oliver Fairfax took out the ring box and gestured for me to put it on. I opened the box, just gave it a faint glance, didn't take it out, and then closed it again. "If it fits, then it's that one." Oliver Fairfax looked at my indifferent attitude and frowned. There's nothing between me and Grace. Can't you be less hostile towards a little girl? I looked at his impatient expression and pointed to the inside of the ring. You got it wrong. This spelling is Grace Simmons. I keep my tone calm. Oliver Fairfax suddenly froze and looked stunned. I couldn't be bothered to listen to his excuses and went straight to the bedroom. Oliver Fairfax came back with a trace of regret in his eyes. He held me tightly from behind as if to embed me into his bones and blood. Vivienne, I was wrong. Let's be good from now on. Do you still remember our wish when we graduated? Oliver Fairfax kept murmuring in my ear, but I couldn't hear anything clearly. That year we made Christmas wishes, year after year, but this year he and another woman made the same promise. Oliver Fairfax. How long are you going to keep pretending? My vision blurred, and I gradually fell into a dream. One day before the wedding, Oliver Fairfax woke up early to make porridge for me. And the living room was filled with baby supplies. He placed the porridge in front of me, looking at me with gentle eyes. Eat some porridge to settle your stomach. I bought a lot of clothes for the baby. Remember to take a look later. I gave a faint nod, but my gaze fell on my flat stomach. Oliver Fairfax unconsciously spent the whole day imagining what the baby would look like. A storm began outside the window in the evening, thunder and lightning filling the sky. Oliver Fairfax restlessly turned over, constantly scrolling through his phone, until the familiar ringtone sounded. He couldn't sit still anymore and picked up his keys to leave. Vivienne, I will arrange for a driver to pick you up tomorrow. There's an urgent matter at the company I need to attend to. He finished speaking and hastily shut the door before I could respond. I took out the luggage I had packed long ago and got into the taxi. Oliver Fairfax's car brushed past me. If he just turned his head, he would see me carrying luggage, but he didn't. I wiped away the tears in front of me and closed the car window. Driver, to the airport. Oliver Fairfax, I have given you many chances, but you chose to ignore them, so from now on, we are done. The plane landed after 15 hours. I am now an externally hired teacher, returning to the school where I once exchanged positions. The school arranged everything for me. I just need to pack my bags and move in. Lying in the teacher's apartment, changing to the newly activated phone card, I completely relaxed, counting the time. The surprise I carefully prepared Oliver Fairfax and Grace Simmons should have already received. I opened my phone and indeed saw trending news about Fairfax the CEO. Clicking in, there was a video. Oliver Fairfax standing in a crowd in a black suit, looking at the car that was picking me up, but when the car door opened, Grace Simmons stepped out. The wedding dress that should have been worn by me was worn by Grace Simmons. Oliver Fairfax looked at her in disbelief. Before he could say anything, the big screen behind automatically started playing a video. This is a photo album I curated myself, with exactly 1,000 photos. All of Oliver Fairfax and Grace Simmons. Everyone around showed envious expressions towards the two in the crowd, Oliver Fairfax turning pale amidst the cheers and blessings. As the video finished playing, internet users had already dug into Grace Simmons's background thoroughly. Many people have come forward to expose her past scandals. Oliver Fairfax has been greatly affected. I logged out of Weibo and turned on the home surveillance. Oliver Fairfax indeed discovered that I left him a wedding gift, a report on human traffic, and a divorce agreement I had already signed. On the screen Oliver Fairfax was clutching those two documents tightly, his eyes red and swollen. Finally, as if all his strength had been drained, he collapsed to the ground, repeatedly calling my name. I decisively turned off the surveillance and uninstalled the software. After returning to school, I quickly got back into good shape. Every day, besides teaching students, I also began traveling around, visiting places I had wanted to go but never had the chance to before. The former me was completely focused on Oliver Fairfax, turning myself into a resentful woman and a housewife who only knew how to do laundry and cooking, as he often called me. But I used to be a naive and lively girl, and I had made achievements in the field I loved. It's just that he didn't care. Now gone Oliver Fairfax. I finally realized that loving oneself is the most important. After gradually adapting to the work here, I met my former senior David Peterson. Meeting old friends abroad, we quickly became good friends. We often go climbing and skiing together. and being with him makes me feel inexplicably relaxed. Through his recommendation, I went on to work as a translator at an international company. When the company is busy with projects, even I, the translator, have to fly around everywhere. This time, the contact person for the project is from South City. I froze for a moment when I saw her, only responding after quite a while. Sister Liu, long time no see. Sister Liu was also stunned for a moment, then smiled and pulled me to sit down. Long time no see, Vivienne. I didn't expect to see you here. Sister Liu was filled with surprise. I smiled and told her about the reason I came to this company. After listening, Sister Liu sighed with a look of sadness. When you left Fairfax, it was the right choice. Now, Fairfax has changed a lot for the worse. Since the wedding of the Fairfax family, it's like he suddenly changed as a person. First, he went missing for a month. When he finally came back, he started investing in jewelry design under the name of his lover, called Vivienne. The company shareholders are at their wits' end. They all say Fairfax has been possessed. I listened quietly, with no ripple in my heart. Sister Liu talked for a while longer and then left. I finished organizing my materials and was about to leave work. Today is Christmas, and the streets are especially lively. I walked back home slowly. Just as I was about to open the door, I saw a small box on the ground. I curiously picked it up when I heard a trembling voice behind me. Vivienne, I finally found you. I turned around and saw Oliver Fairfax, looking disheveled. The sky was full of snow, but he was covered in a thin layer of sweat, panting, with his eyes tightly fixed on me. Afraid I would leave, I almost instinctively wanted to close the door, but Oliver Fairfax stepped ahead and held me back. He pulled me into his arms in one move, holding me tightly as if he wanted to embed me into his bones and blood. Vivienne, Vivienne, Oliver Fairfax's voice trembled, laced with the sound of suppressed sobs. Vivienne, I was wrong, I truly was. Please don't punish me like this. I can't live without you. Cold, wet drops slid down the back of my neck, and I turned my head away in disgust. I really don't understand. The one who betrayed me was him. So why does he now look innocent and repent? Is it really only after losing something that one begins to regret? Let go, I coldly speak. Oliver Fairfax remains unmoved, still holding me tightly. I finally couldn't hold back and shouted aloud, "Let go of me." Oliver Fairfax froze for a moment, then reluctantly loosened his grip. Vivienne, I realize my mistake now. I swear I will never contact Grace Simmons again in the future. From now on, whatever you ask me to do, I will do it. Can we also redo the wedding to your liking? I don't blame you about the children. We're still young and we'll have more in the future. Vivienne, will you come back with me? Oliver Fairfax looked at my expression carefully as he spoke. I reluctantly took a step back and put some distance between us. Oliver Fairfax, did you see the things I left for you? I want a divorce from you. Oliver Fairfax, the face pale, his figure suddenly swayed, almost unable to stand. He reddened his eyes. What divorce? Vivienne, don't joke about that. How could we possibly get divorced? We've been together for 8 years. How could it just be over? You must not like the wedding I arranged for you. My taste has always been worse than Vivienne. It's all my fault. When you go back, we'll redo everything. Just follow your preferences. Oliver Fairfax was speaking wildly, as if crazed. I couldn't help but interrupt him. Oliver Fairfax, what right does a cheater have to mention 8 years of feelings to me? Hearing these words, Oliver Fairfax's eyes quickly flashed with panic. He froze for a long time before incoherently explaining. No, it's not like that, Vivienne. I was just temporarily bewitched. But the one I've loved all along is you. I never thought we would be separated again. It clearly shouldn't be like this. I thought that after the wedding, we would be like before, with a family and children. Living a happy and complete life. Oliver Fairfax, is your so-called happy and complete life just endless betrayal? Look at me foolishly loving you, suffering sleepless nights because of your pregnancy. Are you proud of that? Oliver Fairfax suddenly panicked upon hearing this, his eyes bloodshot, as if they were about to bleed. I know you're going through a tough time, but if I don't handle the company affairs, how can I give you and the child a good future? Vivienne, I'm also in pain. I couldn't help but clenched my fists and sneered coldly at Oliver Fairfax's words. Everything is very clear now. Yet he's still pretending not to understand, putting on a hypocritical act of deep affection here. How many of the so-called business dinners you mentioned are really just that? You and Grace Simmons have been interacting on your couple account every day for 3 straight years, promising to stay by my side every Christmas, but in reality, as long as Grace Simmons gives me a call, you'll rush to her side overnight. You have traveled to countless places with her over the 3 years, taken countless photos, but when it came to wedding photos, you were unwilling to spend time to take them with me. Last Christmas, you accompanied her for IVF, but stopped because you felt sorry for her. And me, what am I, a tool for you to have children with, or an obstacle in your love? Oliver Fairfax was filled with shock. I curved my lips slightly. The child from IVF is you and Grace Simmons. Don't you think I know, Oliver Fairfax? I am not a fool, Vivienne. Oliver Fairfax's face turned paler, trembling lips, wanting to explain but unable to refute. Snow is falling more heavily, landing on Oliver Fairfax's head. Oliver Fairfax, do you remember our first Christmas together? What did you promise me? Oliver Fairfax looked at me with hollow eyes, as if lost in memory. I chuckled softly. Knowing he had long forgotten the first Christmas together, Oliver Fairfax spent all his savings to rent a couple's restaurant. I never believed in love that lasted a lifetime, but when he appeared holding flowers, I started to imagine us growing old together. Oliver Fairfax had always been a straightforward straight man. I loved his sense of security that was uniquely his, but I never thought I would marry him. But that day, he knelt before me with sincere devotion and said, "Vivienne, please believe me, as long as I am alive, I will only love you. If I ever change my mind, let the heavens strike me down with lightning." 8 years have passed, he's still alive, but he no longer remembers what he once said. Oliver Fairfax looked up, regret flashing in his eyes. I remembered something and let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, you insisted on not having a wedding at the time. Now only you and Grace Simmons know about our relationship. Otherwise, it would have been really troublesome. Oliver Fairfax looked at me in disbelief, as if he couldn't believe I would say that. Vivienne, how could you think like that? I refused the wedding at that time simply because the company was just starting out and couldn't handle it. Now I have the ability to give you everything. Come back with me now, and I'll arrange the wedding immediately. It's just a wedding, isn't it? You can have as many as you want. I impatiently wanted to push him away and go inside, but Oliver Fairfax immediately sensed it and tightly grabbed my arm. Vivienne, go back. You're unfamiliar with this place. Whatever you want to do when you go back, I'll make arrangements for you. I seemed to hear a joke, with a mocking expression. Unknown places, Oliver Fairfax, you must have forgotten that I stayed in Germany for 3 full years during university. You wouldn't think I didn't understand your conversation with Grace Simmons on Christmas Day, would you? Hearing this, Oliver Fairfax's pupils constricted, his face full of shock. I forgot. I didn't do it on purpose. All those words were lies. You're pregnant, and I'm afraid she will go to you and talk nonsense. So, I impatiently shook off his hand. All of it is fake. Then what is real? Is it your fake love? Oliver Fairfax was speechless after I asked, stunned in place. I want to take the chance to leave, Oliver Fairfax said sternly. But Vivienne, we've been together for so long. You even had my child. Who else would want you besides me? I hesitated as I held the doorknob, looked at that face I had loved for 8 years, but now only felt unfamiliar. Oliver Fairfax saw me turn back. A glimmer of light appeared in his eyes. Be obedient. We're still fine. I won't abandon you. He was smiling gently, but an icy chill rose in my heart. And I could never connect him with the person he used to be. I forced myself to endure my disgust, wanting to tear off his disguise, but suddenly a male voice sounded from behind. Is there something you want with my girlfriend? I turned my head and met David Peterson's gaze. He strode forward and protected me behind him. I've already called the police. Vivienne is with me. Besides, she is an independent and excellent girl. She'll be fine without anyone. Oliver Fairfax looked extremely pale, staring fixedly at David Peterson, as if trying to bore a hole through him. I am Vivienne's husband. Who are you? To say that Vivienne is your girlfriend? David Peterson Simmons felt a coldness spreading, and his tone grew even more sinister. Husband, it doesn't matter. I've already arranged a divorce lawyer for Vivienne. The things you've done should be enough to annul 10 marriages. Oliver Fairfax clenched his forehead veins, fists raised with the intent to strike David Peterson. Before he could get close, he was restrained by the arriving police and taken back to the station. David Peterson smiled at me comfortingly, and only after finishing the matter did he come back. I sat on the swing outside the door, swaying it back and forth, the tips of my fingers flickering with crimson red. My phone kept vibrating. When I opened it, I saw a message from an unfamiliar number from my home country. Vivienne Lancaster. Do you think you've won? I'm pregnant, and it's Oliver. I sneered and turned off the phone, only feeling that she was pitifully stupid. She sacrificed everything for a man who was utterly hypocritical. I took out the small red box in my pocket, and sure enough, it was that ring, a plain white band, with only rough carvings on the inside. Oliver Fairfax and I were completely broke when his company was just starting, and we couldn't even save 2,000 yuan in our pockets. But that Christmas was the happiest day of my life. Oliver Fairfax spent half a month personally crafting this silver ring. The craftsmanship was visibly rough, the inside was crooked and inscribed with our initials, but I loved it very much, so much that even when he remade a precious diamond ring for my proposal, I thought it couldn't compare to this simple ring. Before leaving, I threw it into the trash can. I don't know how Oliver Fairfax managed to find it again. But seeing it again started to make me suspicious. It's just a ring. Why am I willing to entrust everything to him? The snow was gradually stopping. David Peterson passed over a bottle of milk and sat on another swing. Thank you, David Peterson joked with a smile. Actually, I was taking advantage of you. Calling you my girlfriend. I shook my head and smiled easily. David Peterson says he made me his girlfriend to drive away Oliver Fairfax. But what's true is that I asked him to help me find a lawyer. Now, I cannot accept it anymore. I am still Oliver Fairfax's wife. With a lawyer, the divorce process went smoothly. Oliver Fairfax hadn't appeared for a long time because of Grace Simmons's pregnancy. When I returned to my country to handle the divorce, the Oliver Fairfax, who had been missing for a long time, finally appeared. In front of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Oliver Fairfax looked exhausted. A mere month had passed, and he looked 10 years older. Vivienne, can you give me some more time? I will handle this soon, Oliver Fairfax beseeched me. I indifferently brushed past him, speaking in a flat tone. Don't make me hate you too much. Oliver Fairfax looked pale and finally offered a bitter smile. When he came out again, Grace Simmons was already waiting at the door. Lancaster sister, when my and Oliver baby is born, you must come. After all, it's not you who let Oliver go, and then the baby won't have a father. Grace Simmons smiled proudly, as if she had achieved some great victory. Oliver Fairfax irritably shouted at her, Grace, aren't you supposed to stay honest at home? What's wrong? You're divorced from her. Why do you care so much about what she's doing? Grace Simmons frowned, preparing to argue with him. I was too lazy to watch their farce, and when I saw David Peterson drive over, I was about to go down. Vivienne. Oliver Fairfax hesitated and called out to me. Behind Grace Simmons, the questioning voices kept coming, and suddenly a scream rang out. I stopped in my tracks and saw the Grace Simmons who was standing on the steps, somehow falling down. Blood was constantly pouring out from beneath her. Her face was deathly pale, and she kept shouting for help. Oliver Fairfax seemed to suddenly react and rushed over. The scene became chaotic for a moment. David Peterson strode over, leading me into the car with a firm grip. Until the car window was rolled up, I finally regained consciousness. David Peterson didn't say anything, just quietly watched over my emotions. At that moment I returned to Germany. It was as if a huge stone suddenly fell from my heart, and I finally let out a long breath. Life finally seems to have returned to normal, just when I thought I and Oliver Fairfax would never cross paths again. Sister Liu suddenly sent me 2 videos. In one video Grace Simmons sits in a pool of blood, glaring at me angrily. In another video Grace Simmons, no longer proud and confident before, disheveled. Lying in front of Fairfax's door, she was shouting non-stop Oliver Fairfax's name, demanding he take responsibility for her, or she would sue me and Oliver Fairfax. The videos spread quickly, and internet public opinion was divided. Some even began to dig into my identity. While I was frowning in annoyance, David Peterson walked over and took my phone without a word. "Starting tomorrow, you're on vacation, let's go hiking." I didn't have time to answer. David Peterson had already prepared everything. When we climbed to the top of the mountain together, looking at the vast snow-capped peaks in front of us, I felt a moment of relief. Love is not wrong. The fault lies with unfaithful people. When I returned to the company, the storm had already subsided, and the landlord called to say that someone had been sitting outside my door for 3 days. I hurried back and saw Oliver Fairfax distraught and crouching at the door. The cigarette butts on the ground had stacked up into a small hill. He looked somewhat at a loss when he saw me return and stood up uncertainly. "Vivienne," I couldn't help but furrow my brow. "Do you have something to say? Grace Simmons's situation didn't really affect you, did it?" "I didn't expect her to act like a shrew. Don't worry. I have taken care of her and she won't bother you again." Oliver Fairfax was speaking anxiously. "Isn't all of this caused by you? If it weren't for you, none of this would have happened." I interrupted him and shut him outside the door. Since that day, Oliver Fairfax started appearing frequently near my house. Things sometimes appeared in front of my house after work, sometimes flowers, sometimes handmade jewelry. I threw all of them into the trash without exception. Christmas is here again. David Peterson asked me out for dinner. After I packed up, I went out. I stood at the corner, but I didn't wait for David Peterson. Instead, I was met with Grace Simmons. There weren't many pedestrians on the street, and the blaring honks sounded. Almost unable to react, I saw Grace Simmons with a frantic expression driving straight toward me. "Vivienne Lancaster, get lost." The headlights were dazzling, and in the chaos, a figure pushed me aside. A bright red filled my sight, and I gradually lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was already in the hospital. David Peterson hurriedly called a doctor as soon as he saw me wake up. Only after confirming that I was fine did he breathe a sigh of relief. After the doctor left, he looked at me hesitantly, wanting to say something. "How are the two of them?" I calmly asked. David Peterson hesitated before replying. "Oliver Fairfax died instantly, and the woman was not rescued." I didn't say anything, faintly recalling some fragments in my mind. "Vivienne, I'm sorry," Oliver Fairfax mumbled before closing his eyes. Now this ending, as if it had been destined all along. 8 years ago he swore to the heavens, and 8 years later, he ultimately paid the price for his mistakes. On the day he was discharged from the hospital and went home, David Peterson mysteriously covered my eyes. "What are you doing?" I nervously grabbed his arm. Surprise, he put his hand down as he spoke, smiling at me. I was so shocked by the scene before me that I couldn't speak. The living room was filled with red roses, and in the center, a Christmas tree almost as tall as a person, decorated with gift boxes. I turned around. David Peterson was already kneeling in front of me. He held my hand and sincerely dropped a kiss. "Vivienne, will you let me love you from now on?" My eyes welled up, and I nodded without hesitation. "Okay." On the first Christmas of the new year, I also welcomed my new beginning. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. So feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.